first poem that I've chosen to read for you this afternoon is in response to Allen Ginsberg's poem, Howl, which many of you will probably already be familiar with, even if you don't know the title. It had the wonderfully visceral opening line of, "I saw the best minds of my generation destroyed by madness." And it got me to thinking about my own generation and our own capacity for madness, which seems to have been sadly limited by societal expectations and counselling and medication and the requirement to just be really, really normal and stable and sane. And my response to this was, for my generation, Whimper, which was the closest to a howl we could get. I have seen the best minds of my generation destroyed by sanity, seen bold new visionaries resign themselves to clinical long-haul deaths, drug-numbed to their own suffering and everyone else's, seen raving revolutionaries give up, retire to minimalist Swedish-designed armchairs and never move again, seen the horizon dim and draw ever closer, and the tenacious lunatics with the wanderlust astray beyond become fewer and further between. There are uglier destructive forces than madness. Consider cognitive rehabilitation. Consider absolutely nothing immeasurable. Consider utter rationality. Ritalin, lithium, risperidone, duloxatine. I thought I heard a man speaking in tongues, then I realized he was simply reading out loud from a pharmaceutical directory. Imagine an entire generation of loan brokers and loss adjusters. Hicks gone these past 26 years and Leary still alive. Sharks floating in formaldehyde, all true human significance lost in pretentious symbols and repetition, and repetition, and repetition. And no one raging for real. Where are Plato's maniacs now? Where are their lunatic songs? I hear only the steady, rational tapping of the accountant's calculators, occasionally some lost and lonely bum crying out for one more shot, and the doctor over the PA system calling the next patient through. The doctor will see you now, or asking with the owner of a light blue Honda Civic, please move their vehicle, as it's blocking in a black Lexus full of lawyers with an ambulance to chase. Is there really nowhere between here and the bellow and buzz, the shiver and shriek of the asylum? Surely someplace between this silent, sterile, static, windowless room and the fizzing frenzy of the electroconvulsion suite. There must have been somewhere we could have paused and breathed and set up shop, where we could have been happy, if we'd wanted to be, and no more or less sane than we chose. Dr. Thompson saw it coming, the dawn of this new age of equilibrium. He knew that football season was over for good this time and made his ballistic decision to go stalk peacocks and hound Nixon through the kingdom hereafter, assuring us, relax, this won't hurt. He was right. Safe and stable and sanitized, we can no longer follow your desperate, dirty verse. Straitjacketed by reason, we perceive our world only in terms of quantum and coefficiency, of the logical and the logistical, of what can be conjured in the duration of the average commercial break, of what can be computed to at least 2 decimal places. We are the chemically castrated. We are lobotomized by mutual consent. We are the perfect ones, regular and moderate and so healthy, so functional. We are the white strobing smiles of the toothpaste ads, the poster children for good mental hygiene, the foot soldiers of no more conflict. We have lost our skill for the alchemy that once distilled genius from the seething crucible of lunacy. We medicate those whose vision would otherwise put our own to shame, leave them as myopic and blinkered as the rest of us, the breadth and depth and distance of their sight no longer a worry to anyone. Give us back our madmen. We need them. Give us back our crazed anthems, our burning shrouds, our leprous one-man bands. Give us back the fire and the filth and the fornication that kept us howling through those endlessly polluted nights of Windscale and Watergate, McCarthy and motorcades, Hanoi and Hiroshima. Please, give us back our madmen. I have seen the best minds of my generation destroyed by sanity. Now, we'll revisit that a little bit later on because my husband pointed out, sorry, that still sounds really weird saying my husband like I'm saying my flying albino unicorn. It's just not something I ever actually expected to have, and it still sounds weird and fantastical. But one of the reasons that he is my husband is because the other day he came out and said, I was rereading Whimper the other day, and you need to follow it up because you asked for our madmen to be given back to us, and we got Trump. So we will be coming back to that later on. But first of all, thinking it's still about things that make us mad. Work used to be one for me. Thankfully, I got out of bureaucratic hell, and I now work in care, which is infinitely more rewarding, more enjoyable. I love it there, and it makes me like me a lot more than my old job did. However, back when I was still working in an office, I wrote this, and if I can get just one person here to rage quit their jobs tomorrow, I will consider the travel down here worthwhile. This one is called Slow Death Among the Toner Cartridges. It's a mundane sort of hell. There's a mug waiting for you in the canteen cupboard. There are people who know whether you take sugar in your tea, how much milk you have in your coffee. Your computer has desktop wallpaper that you picked for yourself. There are appraisals and sometimes biscuits. You get a card on your birthday scribbled with a score of sincere, benevolent, utterly generic messages. It would be all right if it wasn't so awful, if it wasn't so meaningless, if it wasn't so always the same for the rest of your life. But it pays the bills, almost. Your boss has told you you've got management potential. It's a steady income. In a few years, you'll qualify for the pension scheme. We don't all get to be astronauts. And besides, there's always alcoholism to fall back on. The prospect of this orderly, straightforward, functional future, stretching away into the waning grey distance, has the brain shutting down, synapse by synapse. Nothing bright or unpredictable can happen anymore. Not inside this standardized skull. You're not getting paid enough for this. Get out. Get out before they drive you sane. I wasn't sure when we set out this morning to come here if I was going to read this one or not, but in view of an argument that I ended up getting into in a newsagent while trying to buy an energy drink with a woman who was just standing there waiting to interrupt other people, who interjected when she heard I was coming to a poetry festival was, well, the problem is poems don't rhyme anymore. Back when I was at school, poems used to rhyme, and I did have to point out to her that, yes, but when you were at school, Yugoslavia was also a country on a map. So just to prove that occasionally I do write rhyming poems, although I usually don't, this one is called I Never Promised You a Villanelle. There is no cure, no fix, no magic spell. I am an aberration, as you know. I never promised you a Villanelle. You cannot trap the ocean in a shell. You feed the roses blood to make them grow. There is no cure, no fix, no magic spell. It does get bumpy on this carousel. The ride is all extremes of high and low. I never promised you a Villanelle. I was the aberration, you could tell. I tied up my neuroses in a bow. There is no cure, no fix, no magic spell. I think it's safe to say you know me well, in all my many masks, but even so, I never promised you a Villanelle. Let me pin my ragged heart to your lapel. If it's truly what you need, I'll let you go. There is no cure, no fix, no magic spell. I never promised you a Villanelle. So, going back to what we mentioned about the madman having come back, obviously the world has changed quite a lot since I was here a couple of years ago, and you can't really be a poet and not address some of those changes. And I know for a lot of artists, the last couple of years have kicked the hell out of us. This one just sort of acknowledges some of those changes that I think we're feeling, and this was called Shrinking Pains. The culture twists and shrieks, racked by violent spasms of regression, recoiling in pain and terror, contracting like some giant spider god dying. Maybe snake oil will offer a cure. Perhaps we can purge the demons by drilling the right holes in the right skulls. We could try electroshocking our way back to normal. We might even rediscover the benefits of leeches. We're building walls and burning bridges. We're forgetting the lessons we never quite learned. We're watching ourselves on an endlessly repeating loop of tiny glowing screens. We willingly downsize our worlds until we have to make ourselves smaller, just so we can still fit. The future is closer than we realize. It's just not as big as we thought it would be. So, finally, talking about Whimper and the necessity to respond to my own response to it and sort of explain my position on having needed the madman back. The response is actually called Howlback, which was an interesting word that I came across when I was looking for a title for it. Howlback is a technical term. It's the screeching feedback that you heard. So it's basically nothing amplified until it's all you can hear. And that sounds quite a lot like our West's political landscape lately. So this is called Howlback. I have seen the best insanity of my generation destroyed by the worst minds. I have seen humans turn into robots and the robots turn to fascism because of what the internet told them. I have seen the weaponization of our most rancid fears and watched in horrified fascination as our inner demons got their own agents. I have seen and felt the horizon constrict so tight, it's getting hard to swallow. You have to understand this isn't what I wanted. You have to realize this isn't what I meant. This isn't crazy. This isn't pure, natural, spontaneous crazy. This is synthetic madness, manufactured madness, genetically modified, mass-produced, mass-marketed madness, as seen on television, approved by test audiences, none of the calories, all of the carcinogens. This goes beyond the deplorable allure of a free red hat. This goes beyond dinosaur, dodo, dumb nostalgia for a blue passport and a golden age that never was. This is why you hire Cambridge Analytica. This is the project for the new American sentence. The message is, it's chaos out there, people. Do what the hell you want. And the echo chamber, and the echo chamber, and the echo chamber. And even the rage isn't real. Mercenaries, not maniacs. No more lunatic songs. That howling you hear is only feedback, an endlessly shrieking loop of absolutely nothing, broadcast on every channel, into every dream until the fillings in our teeth buzz and our institutions tear themselves apart as component materials hit resonant frequency. This is how the world ends, not with a whimper, but with static. We got the message wrong, giving credence to people whose hatred is their only art. They taught us to avoid such human folly as ruinous empathy, to distrust painful, decaying love, when these were the things that might have saved us. There's a poet I know who served in Nam who thinks he might have even forgiven Nixon. Field Commander Cohen has checked out of the Chelsea Hotel, deciding we wanted it too dark for him. Too many of our heroes have turned out to be monsters. We're haunted by historic sex crimes, Cold War ghosts, and the knowledge that we could have done things differently. The message was supposed to be, it's chaos, be kind. There's no such thing as a stable genius, but we've got fake news and alternative facts. We're discovering the side effects of living post-consequence. We're hypernormalized. We're past shock. Our incredulity stretched beyond its elastic limit. We've broken satire, and nothing is really funny anymore. Welcome to the disinformation age. These are our interesting times. Glee club and gun rehearsal, bloodied blue uniforms, tears for the victim of the Bowling Green massacre, an early by-election for Batley and Spen, very fine people on both sides, thoughts and prayers, our only surplus, the ultimate fiat currency, poverty porn, and the return of social murder. 71 dead at Grenfell, NHS black alert, rickets making a comeback, lead in the water. Drink the Kool-Aid, humans like Kool-Aid. Porn stars on polygraphs, Netflix and Compromat, the portrait in Kissinger's attic, Ayn Rand for beginners, corporate cosmology and casino capitalism, government by gaslight, constructive ambiguity to preserve a kakistocracy, bring me the head of Roger Stone, hashtag end of empire, Windrush and stupid Watergate. I said we needed our madmen back, but not like this. Not these posers, these gangsters, these quislings. These are merely bad actors playing to the crazy dollar. But do not doubt their sanity, which is icy and cynical and monstrous. But in the cold fusion reactor of that sanity, they are unknowingly forging a new generation of madmen whose madness will be righteous and real and burn with a pure, perfect heat that cleanses and cauterizes. They will know the difference between human and humanoid. They will be less afraid than us, less quick to hate strangeness. They will use their craziness to create, not destroy. They have already begun. I know this because I have witnessed 6 minutes and 20 seconds of silence that blazed hotter, howled louder than all your fire and fury. I have seen riot cops in Baton Rouge turn whiter and recoil in fear from serene, dignified, unarmed surrender. I have heard the young sweetly whisper to the old, "Fine, but you're wrong. And we're right. And we will outlive you." You can't hide that behind a wall. You can't say that life doesn't matter. You can't filibuster the future. Everything was forever until it was no more. Our madmen are gone. and they're not coming back. But there will be others. The best minds of their generation will not be destroyed by your sanity. Thank you.